Where there's thunder, there's lightning. John Nada. Before coming to the truths of Mgtow, before understanding the red pill, I never realized how messed up things could actually become. I never knew in what danger a man could be simply by living with a woman. We are all familiar with the divorce rape and family courts, half of what you've built going towards a woman who helped to build none of it, your children being taken away, alimony payments, child support, all those things. And nowadays, with the advent of common law marriage, you don't even have to involve the state purposefully to get screwed over in those ways. And a buddy of mine we have a joke about the whole Duluth model thing where you're walking through the narrow hallway of your house and you slightly brush against your wife. And the way that most of the domestic violence laws are written is that, oh, well, he contacted her. That's domestic violence. He contacted her. Or, you do that thing that you sometimes do in public, where you kind of juke around you're trying to go right. The other person's trying to go right. And then you go left and so on and so forth. And then you got to kind of do a football juke move around them to, just the absurdity of something like that. Or, you're talking to your live-in girlfriend and you just happen to eat a whole bag of handicap hot fries and you talk to her and then a little bit of the spittle, accidentally goes and contacts her eyeball and she goes, oh, my eye was irritated. It was watering, domestic violence, so, I just never realized what a powder keg could be sitting in your own living room when it comes to women, not only just the way that the domestic violence laws are written, not only just the way that the family court and resource laws are written, but also the idea that they could accuse you at any time. Consent can be revoked literally years later. Like, at the time it was enjoyable and consensual, but 30 years later I've decided that it wasn't. And it's just like, you can't even remember what you had for lunch 30 years ago on that day, let alone, the many multiple encounters that most women have throughout their early 20s. So I say all that to say this: these findings, these results fundamentally mean in some ways that going your own way requires certain things. And I hate to be, because I've never agreed with the idea that for one to be a true Mgtow or a quote real Mgtow, it's like a quote real man, I've never agreed that one had to be a monk, a Mgtow monk. Now, one can be a Mgtow monk, but I've never agreed that if one is not a Mgtow monk, that he is, ipso facto not a Mgtow. But I'm starting to see that there are certain things that fundamentally mean, doing a certain thing or being a certain way in order to be a successful Mgtow. Because going Mgtow means that you must abstain from certain things. Otherwise, you would thereby potentially be going somebody else's way. What I mean by that is there are Mgtow who have girlfriends. There are Mgtow who are in relationships. And they may be Mgtow to some degree. But fundamentally, they are really kind of not going their own way. Because if they're dating somebody, if they're in a relationship, even a friends with benefits situation could potentially mean that a man is not going his own way. Because in order to keep that friends with benefits situation going, there are certain exchanges, there are certain transactions that maybe are taking place. And, he wouldn't want to accept, or he wouldn't want to offend or upset the person that he's in the friends with benefits relationship with, because his intention is to, of course, keep that situation alive and keep that situation going. And certainly if you're in a relationship with a girl or even casually dating a girl, you're more likely going her way at times than you're necessarily going your own way. Now, you may be going your own way at times, but it seems like anytime you're mixed up with a woman in any way, shape, or form, though you may be going your way at times, at some point you're going to be going their way. And so a lot of this is just over time, because I don't feel like I've reached a point where I have it all figured out, where I am the Mgtow guru and I have all the truth. And so whatever I say must be whatever Mgtow is. Because I've said many times to you guys that I'm along for the ride with you. I'm trying to figure it out with you. And something that I intend to be better about, and I'm going to take some time to go from the very first video up until now, but something that I want to try to be better about is answering your comments and questions and things, because a lot of you guys make some really good points. A lot of you guys have shared as much wisdom in the comments as has been shared in any of the videos I've done. And so it's a progressive revelation experience that we are undergoing when we're going Mgtow, when we're going our own way. So there are things that I understood, or rather that I understand now, that maybe I didn't understand a year or even 2 years ago. Because as time goes on, things become more and more clear. And my experiences and the people that I talk to and learn from their experiences bring more clarity into what's really going on around us. So another point that whole thing brings up is a lot of us struggle to truly go our own way because for the longest time we have been told that the pinnacle, the apex, the uppermost is to find this girl, to find this damsel, and to have a relationship with her, and then all the things that come with that, marriage and children and everything else. And we've been told, as has been mentioned on this program, that it is impossible to live a fulfilled life, and it is impossible to truly be happy without having completed this quest or this journey. So for Mgtow, what happens is there's a struggle to truly go our own way, because what a lot of Mgtow do is we look for the next all-consuming purpose. We look for the next thing to replace, that search for a woman or that search for a relationship. And because it's been so hardwired into us, it's been so taught into us, it's been so infiltrated into us that we must have a relationship with a woman. And a large part of our life is consists of looking for this woman or looking for this relationship. And so it's kind of like going through the discount CD rack, if any of y'all remember CDs, and not this one, not that one, and every once in a while you find a gem in there of a band you like. And that's what the dating relationships have been like for a lot of us. That, we go through a lot of not this one, not that one, and then maybe every once in a while we find a gem, or we find somebody that we think is going to be different, and then as time goes on we realize that the CD's all scratched up and it doesn't quite play right. So what a lot of us do is, okay, we understand that relationships with women are futile. Relationships, finding this special, all-encompassing relationship that's going to be the basically it's sold to us as the key to happiness. And that it doesn't matter what's going on in life. It doesn't matter what's going on around you in the world. It doesn't matter as long as you have this relationship. That's going to open up the doors to happiness. The windows of joy will be flung open. And so when that's taken away from us, we naturally have to find something else, some other reason, some other purpose, some other fulfillment. And I think that a lot of Mgtow end up equally miserable in that search even though they've gotten away from relationships, even though they've gotten away from the search for quote the one, they become equally miserable because now they've gone down the rabbit hole of something else and have missed the point entirely. And so now they try to find some other meaningful thing in life that's all encompassing. They try to find some other key to happiness that's going to unlock the doors to joy and contentment and peace, and are missing the point that maybe such a thing doesn't exist, and maybe that such a thing was never intended to be in the first place. Now, I was listening to Paul Proteus's From and To video the other day, and I find myself coming back to that video quite often because I think, as Mgtow videos go, and there's a lot of good ones out there, but I think that Paul's From and To video is one of the most profound things that I have heard, and not just in the Mgtow manosphere, but just in general. The Mgtow context aside, it's one of the most profound things that I've heard in terms of any kind of life wisdom. Because he's absolutely right. We're free from a lot of these things when it comes to women. We're free from the fear of alimony and divorce rape and child support and all those sort of things. But in a lot of ways, we're not free from the other things that enslave us. Like what I mentioned a minute ago about, well, I've just traded one master for the other. I've just traded one fruitless and futile hunt for another. And so a lot of the problem is that we don't begin to move into something. We've completely missed the point, some of us. So here's an example of something. I could sit around and I could worry about, what's the next all-encompassing goal? What's the next, I've got to have this, I have to have this creme de la creme or this magnus opus or whatever that I'm seeking out in life. Rather than to just simply live my life now freely as I choose. Because I think that's what the point is. The point is that there is no pressure. The point is, as was said in The Matrix, there is no spoon. The point is that nothingness is a part of existence. So therefore you have to have both in order for there to be an existence and a non-existence. So what am I trying to say with all this? I think at some point in time, as Paul said in his video, it's time for us to go on and live our lives. But many of us are not doing that. We've traded the search for a relationship with a woman. We've traded that idea in for the fight against feminism, the fight against this, the fight against that. And I'm not saying that those aren't worthy and laudable goals. And I think it's great that there are people out there willing to fight those fights. But at this point in my life and at this stage in my understanding is progressive revelation, because nobody came to it overnight. Nobody understood Mgtow, hypergamy, gynocentrism, and all those things, in the snap of a finger. It came over time. And as time goes on, we learn more and more. It's progressively revelated to us. And as time goes on, I realize I never did get those scuba diving lessons. I never did get to go scuba diving. I never did take that trip to the Netherlands. You know what? I never did complete that project, that Ghostbusters Ecto-1. I never did finish writing that book, that manuscript that I was going to write. I never did get in the gym and get that, get in shape the way that I wanted to. I never did get to go to those amateur wrestling tryouts, those amateur pro wrestling tryouts, and wrestle in the ring like I always wanted to, just for a night. I never did get to do this. I never put the effort forth towards that. Men, go your own way or don't. The choice is yours.